Hello, this is wmpyr. For today's subject, I'm basically was inspired by, or the reason why I'm making this video is because of two YouTube channels that I am familiar with, and I'm not going to name them just because, unfortunately, what I'm about to say is something negative. So I'm not here to, get into a flame war or argue with those guys or anything like that. But it's because I'm really disappointed, and it's not just these two guys. Probably a ton of YouTube channels are guilty of this. YouTube martial arts channels are very guilty of what I'm about to say. Okay, and so I'm very disappointed because these two guys, two totally different YouTube channels. They're both martial arts related or martial arts YouTube channels, and both of these guys are very, very talented and very, very intelligent. In fact, I would like to say I have no problem admitting that I feel like they are both more talented than I am in terms of skill, knowledge, experience, and whatnot. Also, I feel like they're both much more intelligent than I am. I unfortunately did not take my schooling very seriously. I had a great opportunity for schooling. I should have ended up with like a master's degree, but I didn't take it seriously. But these two guys, I think, are once again much more intelligent than I am. Okay, so it's just I feel like it's a darn shame that their downfall is really in one area, and that one area has to do with opinion. They basically crossed the line with their opinion. So let me try to explain what I mean by that, okay? And it's not just these guys. Most martial arts people on YouTube, I feel, are completely guilty of this. And if you are guilty of this, I don't know if, as a martial artist, does that make you a very good martial artist or not? It's hard for me to give you credit there if you utterly fail in this department that I'm about to talk about with opinions. I can kind of understand what Michael Jai White was saying about, like, when they asked him about Van Damme, and he said, look, the individual helped me out when I was trying to break into the movie industry when he was in the first Universal Soldier, and he was just in a quick short scene, and Van Damme like got him a jacket or something. The individual was very kind. Martial arts, obviously Van Damme has real skill, but then he was like, if you are fell into the drugs and fell into, like, doing cocaine and stuff like that, he was like, as a martial artist, he said, I don't know if I could say, because there are plenty of other martial artists that didn't do that. So I can understand where he's coming from, because to me, a martial artist, it's the whole picture. It's not just about fighting skills. It's not just about, like, how bad you look in a demonstration, how mean your skills look. It's more than that, right? It's a lifestyle. So anyway, what I'm trying to say about crossing the line of opinion is, like, for example, you have let's say this is a sword, okay? There's many ways to grip the sword. So let's say you grip it like maybe with a gap right here, and you feel that this gives you good leverage this way. So you hold the sword this way. Another school of thought is they don't like to hold it this way because the middle area can be grabbed, and then the sword might be taken away from you. So they don't like to hold it this way. They like to eliminate that gap. Okay? So two different schools of thought. So if the person says, this gives me leverage, this is a great way of getting leverage, so this is the best way to hold the sword. Or if the other guy says, if you hold it that way, they can grab you right there, and you might be able to take the sword away from them. So that is a bad way to hold the sword, and the way that we hold it like this is the best way. Both of these guys are crossing the line with their opinion. I don't know if you guys can understand that. The logic is fine. There's nothing wrong with the logic there. So whether you decide to favor leverage or whether you decide to favor, not giving the opportunity for someone to have an area to grab on the handle, the logic on both of them are legit. They're good logic, okay? But to say yours is the best is now crossing the line. So you shouldn't say that, all right? So I see the same thing with the Eskrima stick. Where do you hold the stick? Okay, do you hold it all the way down here, or then do you leave some of this left, or do you hold it way up here? Which I do a lot of times just because I'm indoors, and I've been criticized for this. And this is where the Miyamoto Musashi idea comes, where in the Book of Five Rings, he's talking about there are sword schools and they're arguing about should I hold the sword up here in the middle or low, or they're fighting about this kind of stuff. And he says, I don't care about any of that. Can you run full force with a sword down a field? Do you have that skill? Can you go through a forest of bamboo with your sword out, running through this thing? Because you're imagining a guy on horseback with a spear is chasing you to kill you. Can you do that? I'm way more interested in that than how you hold the sword. That's what it says in the Book of Five Rings. I completely agree. People are arguing about these little things, and what you have to understand is that your logic, I'm not saying is right or wrong, it's your logic. And all you can do is work on your logic to make it happen in a real life situation. But remember, there's other people with other logics, and they're working on to make that happen as well. So the world is huge, and there's always someone out there working to defy your logic, or there's always someone out there with a completely different methodology, and it's really good. So to say yours is the best or better is absolutely silly, okay? It's not important. What is important is you just work on it and you try to make it happen. But to think that, no, this is the best, this is what do you want? A stamp of approval? There is no guarantees in martial arts or in life, and that's what makes it so great. You can't say this is the way to do it. Absolutely, we're all so different. The way we act, the way we behave, it's so different. You can't say what works for one person is going to work for another person. Just work on your logic, and someone else may like your logic, or someone else may go against your logic, and that's fine. That is fine. That's what it's there for. That's what happens in real life. And then you got to adapt, or you got to overcome, or maybe you don't, and then maybe you adopt their logic, or you just keep working on yours, or whatever. It's all that exists. So if the moment you go, my logic is the best, you close off to reality. Reality is chaos. Like I said, all these different logics exist, whether you like it or not. They exist. And some of these guys are very, very good at their logic. So, the moment you say mine's the best, you close it all off and you're living in a fantasy world. And what's worse is, like on the internet, people are unaccountable for what they say. So it's easy for me to make a video and say, this is the best grip, or this is the best grip, and I can get away with it. It's not like I have to go prove it. It's not like, you're going to see me make a video where I go up against 10 different really good guys and show that my method works. And even if it does, once again, 10 is not enough. 10 is, and just because it works for me every time, let's say I have 100 matches and out of 100, I beat everybody, okay? That still doesn't mean anything, because for somebody else, it may not work, okay? It worked for me, but it may not work for somebody else. And guess what? It worked for me now, but what about 10 years from now? It may not work. Or what about 10 years ago? Maybe that wouldn't have worked because my mind was in a different place. My skill level was at a different place. So when you put in all these things, you can't work in absolute where you go, this is correct, that's wrong. You can't do that. for a beginner, when you're teaching them textbook, you can do that. You could go, our way is like this. You do it this way. Our way, we hold it like this, or we hold it like this, our way, you know, and you can give them the reasons. You can say, well, because we like to use a little bit of here, but we don't want to hold it all the way up here because this is unnecessary, or now this can get taken away from us. So, you know, we want to be like just about this much, an inch and a half or whatever. You can give them that kind of logic, but you don't say that's the best. And so these guys, unfortunately, you know, they confuse their opinion, their personal preference with fact. And the opinions are become way too strong, and they start saying stuff like that. They're like, no, you don't want to hold it that way because then this can happen, and that's not a good way to do it, you know. And once again, I promise you, there's someone on the other side of the world that holds it that way, and they're awesome at it, you know. So you just, you know, you don't want to work in absolutes that way. So one of these individuals, the opinion is always, it crosses the line. And if you cross the line with your opinion, that basically means that you're throwing your weight around. And because you're unaccountable. Like I said, on the internet, you can say whatever you want. That's being unaccountable. If you want to be a more decent human being, you got to be accountable with your opinions. I made a movie review on YouTube. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I made a movie review on YouTube. The director watched my review, and I tore the movie apart in my review. And he said, that's fair opinion. Thank you for reviewing. And I wrote back to the guy and I said, I am sorry. I crossed the line. I was wrong. I'm going to take down my review. I've never made a movie in my life, you know, and for me to say the things that I've said, it's clearly crossing the line. So until I'm making movies, I don't have the right to say stuff like that. So I apologize to the guy. I took down the video, okay? You got to be accountable for your words. And to me, that is a code to live by. So this one of the guys out of the two that I mentioned right now, he's a constantly crosses the line with his opinions. And once again, if you're throwing your weight around like that, that means you're a bully. If you're a bully, what's a bully is basically an insecure and not a very nice human being. So don't tell me I'm a nice person because I take care of my kid and I love my kid. That doesn't make you a nice person, okay? You're supposed to do that. So if you're a bully, like I said, if you constantly you know, throw your weight around with your opinions, that makes you a bully. So therefore, you're not a very nice person. And this person does constantly get into flame wars and heated arguments with people. It's almost like they can't help, and they're always getting into this and fights, verbal fights, and going, man, these people are stupid. They're so stupid. You know, you have this kind of superior attitude, and you're wondering why you're constantly getting into fights. Well, it's because your attitude, you're a bully, your mind is that way. So it's unfortunate because this person is so talented, so intelligent, and in some other aspects, very, very likable, almost a very likable personality, but they're not very nice. And that comes from the way they do their opinions. The other individual that I mentioned, this person is does not like combat sports, does not like MMA, does not like boxing, hates it, hates Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, hates that stuff. And because of it, that means they're completely close-minded to it. They hate it, which is a personal preference. You don't have to like it. That's fine. You can have your personal preference, but then they now combine it with their opinion, and they put in strong opinions. So now in their head, in their brain, it's turned into facts. So they have reasons of not liking it, and those are very strong opinions. And they go, well, you know, if you do the MMA style of fighting on a street fight, that's going to get you arrested. You know, you're basically beating on someone that's already on the ground, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And it just goes on to this kind of argument where they're saying, I'm right, they're wrong, and therefore he becomes close-minded. Very intelligent person, with many good points. Yeah, true. If you do, attack a person that's already grounded, that could land you in very hot legal trouble for sure. I'm not saying he's wrong about that, but he's made that into fact, absolute fact, to where in every situation MMA is bad. You don't want to do MMA. MMA is the worst thing possible. It's not good for self-defense. It's not good, period, which I completely disagree with. It's up to the individual. The individual can, there's been many cases where MMA fighter has defended themselves. I would not walk around without those skills, period. So anyway, this person has made their personal preference into fact, into solid stone, and because of it, they've closed off their mind, and it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that they have to be prejudiced and basically hateful in that manner, and it's really sad because if you are a minority and if you've experienced that, you don't like to be treated with prejudice. You don't like to be treated with just hate just because of your race, so it's sad that this person is basically doing the same thing but in the world of martial arts. So anyway, that's it for now. Just please, it's fine to have personal preference. It's fine to have an opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be careful about crossing the boundaries. You don't cross the line. You should be respectful. You should be considerate, and then if you do that, then you become a caring, more nurturing. You could become more nice than you currently are. So this is through martial arts training and analyzing martial arts and learning techniques. If you adopt this philosophy, so if you really truly follow what I'm saying, this is why I say what I do with the martial arts, which I say to people, I don't sit back and criticize what you do and go, let me tell you what you're doing wrong and let me tell you how to do it right. Once again, that is crossing the line. So what I would say to you is, let me see what you guys do and let's try to make it better. Let's try to improve it. So I'll train with you and we'll try to, improve at the very least our skills, in various ways. So that's the way that I view it, rather than sit back and criticize. So I hope that makes sense. There's a difference there. So that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.